Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Alabama, Ms. Sewell, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise and recognize and pay tribute to a distinguished Alabama educator and civil rights pioneer, Professor Thelma McWilliams Glass. She was known for her exemplary efforts in the field of higher education and her tireless commitment to the struggle of racial inequality. Professor Thelma Glass was the last surviving member of the Women's Political Council, the organization that was instrumental in planning and the organization of the Montgomery bus boycott in the 1950s. She recently passed away in Montgomery, Alabama on Wednesday, July 25th, at the age of 96. Professor Thelma Glass was born in Mobile, Alabama on May 16, 1916, and at an early age was instilled a love of learning that led to her lifelong pursuit of academic excellence. She graduated valedictorian of Dunbar High School in Mobile, Alabama at the age of 15 and earned a bachelor's degree from Alabama State University and a master's degree from Columbia University, both in geography. In 1942, Thelma McWilliams married the love of her life, Arthur Glass. They were both professors at Alabama State University for over 40 years. Their love for each other was as strong as their dedication and commitment to the students that they taught at Alabama State University. After 41 years of marriage, her husband, Professor Arthur Glass, passed away in 1983. Professor Thelma Glass was an accomplished educator who taught geography at Alabama State University for 40 years. She led by example, displaying the same exceptionalism, tenacity, and commitment to public service that she demanded of her students. After 4 decades of dedication to Alabama State University and her community activism, in 1981, the Thelma M. Glass Auditorium in Trenholm Hall was dedicated on the campus of Alabama State University in her honor. Professor Glass was at the forefront of the civil rights movement, showing great courage as she stood up to social injustices at segregated Montgomery, Alabama in the 1950s. She was a core member and secretary of the Women's Political Council that formed at Alabama State University to campaign against such abuses and the indignation of segregation. The activism of the Women's Political Council laid the groundwork for the successful Montgomery bus boycott. When Rosa Parks the protests in motion with her arrest in 1955 after refusing to give up her seat on the bus, women like Professor Thelma Glass was ready and willing to fight against such racial injustice. The Women's Political Council was soon absorbed into the newly formed Montgomery Improvement Association with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at its helm. Professor Glass continued to play an integral role in copying thousands of flyers and recruiting her students to spread the word of the bus boycott. She risked her life driving in the carpools and organizing transportation for those participating in the boycott. The success of the Montgomery boycott pushed the civil rights movement into full force as African Americans across the South fought against racial inequality and ultimately led to the signing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 by President Lyndon B. Johnson. It was women like Professor Glass who refused to sit on the sidelines and be a footnote in history that made it possible for all of us to enjoy the rights that we do today. I know I would not be standing here as the first African-American congresswoman from Alabama if not for the activists like Professor Thelma Glass. The remarkable career of Professor Thelma Glass as an educator and civil rights activist has been recognized by numerous awards. In 2011, Professor Glass received the Black and Gold Standard Award, one of the highest honors awarded to an alumni by Alabama State University. Professor Glass was an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the Montgomery chapter of the Links Incorporated, and St. John's AME Church. Thelma Glass was indeed an inspiration to all. I know, on a personal note, Professor Glass served as a role model and mentor to my mother, Nancy Gardner Sewell, who she encouraged as a student at Alabama State University to pledge Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Professor Glass was the epitome of a woman of grace and style and commitment and dedication who lifted as she climbed. I stand on the shoulders of these blazing activists such as Professor Glass and this remarkable woman who paved the way for the advancement of African Americans. Our nation is eternally grateful to Professor Thelma Glass, her commitment to racial equality and social justice that is a great example to all of us. She left an indelible mark on the state of Alabama, and on this nation. And today I proudly stand to acknowledge her legacy and hope that we all remember it for generations to come. Thank you, Mr.